The documentary Face of Darkness focuses on depression and rising suicide rates among African American men. It exposes the ramifications of depression that goes untreated. Here's a clip.
Former Disney star Lee Thompson-Young was found dead, but Young's manager said the actor, quote, tragically took his own life.
Soul Train legend Don Cornelius has died.
He died from what investigators are saying at this time was an apparent suicide.
Violator Entertainment founder Chris Lighty has died at the premature age of 43. Sources are saying his death was a suicide via a gunshot wound to the head.
Depression is an illness that affects more than 14 million Americans. But black Americans seek help for depression far less often than whites do. For black men, sometimes it's the stigma of mental illness that prevents them from being open about their struggle with depression.
Joining us today are filmmakers Squeaky Moore and Kenneth K.T. Nelson, along with Dr. Jeffrey Gardere, also known as America's psychologist. Thank you all for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Kenneth, we've been talking about this project for a long time, so I'm going to start with you, because you months ago said you have to have us on, we have to talk about this. Why is black men and depression a subject that you felt like really needed to be addressed?
Well, I've struggled myself with depression, and I lost both of my parents within a short amount of time, and I had suffered from depression. My depression was so bad that they actually thought I was having a stroke at one point, and so they suggested medication, and I didn't want to take it because it was the stigma that was associated with it. And then later on, I decided to take medicine, and I got a therapist. I changed my diet. I did a lot of things to help me out, but then I lost one of my friends, the actor Lee Thompson-Young. He died by suicide about a year ago, and I couldn't sleep, and I said, you know what? I need to do something about this. I have a responsibility. And at first, I didn't want to tell my story or any of that. But then I'm like, you know what? People need to hear this because there are a lot of people that are suffering. So I reached out to my partner, Squeaky Moore, and I said, we need to do this documentary. And then we started working on this project.
Now, I know, Squeaky, you have a reputation for taking on social issues. It's something that's important to you. Were you immediately on board with this?
Probably so. I too struggled with anxiety and depression. What I felt like was a very severe case of it at a point. And so when he came to me, it was something that made sense to do because of the type of projects I like to do as a filmmaker, and it made sense because I felt like I could give something, a personal, I understood, and so I think when you've gone through something like depression or anxiety, you have something to give, or you understand in a way that other people who haven't don't, and that's families and therapists, even if they really haven't. Some, may not understand the deep personal, like what it's really like on that side, and I think that's the great thing KT and I can give to the project.
And Dr. Gardere, I'll bring you in as the expert on this subject. Look, it is an issue. I mean, there are millions, 14 million Americans, I think, is the number out there now that suffer from depression.
Yes, exactly.
And if we focus specifically on black men, African American men, just how big of an issue is it? And why do black men seem to have a real problem acknowledging this?
Well, black men, like any men, just don't want to look at their foibles. They don't want to look at what they consider to be emotions, because that's a sign of weakness if you tap into your emotions, especially if you feel that your emotions are broken. Working with black men specifically, I think, is a worthy cause, because no one else is really working with them. Terry Williams is doing a lot of work with the general population as far as African Americans, but she, as a woman, a lot of women identify with her. With KT and Squeaky, but especially with KT, the fact that he's showing as a black male that he had depression, he was able to talk about it, able to get the treatment, I think, as a role model, he is teaching black folks, black men in particular, that you don't have to hold on to this pain. There's a lot of pain there because we're dealing with poverty, we're dealing with day-to-day racism, we deal with double the unemployment rate, so black men are hurting.
There was some you mentioned your friend.
Yes.
Don Cornelius.
Yes.
Committed suicide. A lot of other famous people have dealt with depression and these issues. Has it been easy getting people to open up for you to talk about this?
Surprisingly now, yes. You know, it's something about vulnerability, and I think that there's relatability. So I'm telling everyone, at first people didn't want to talk about it, but now I'm getting text messages and emails and phone calls. They're like, thank you. I even got a message the other day from this guy. He said we saved his life. So I was very grateful. So, you know, people are opening up. Some people know, but still, you know, they're willing to discuss it a little more than they had before.
Yeah, and I think part of that is what these two individuals have done. They've come out and said, yeah, we dealt with depression, we dealt with anxiety. I myself deal with hypochondriasis, OCD, and anxiety. We're a hot mess up in here.
What is
hypochondriasis? A fear, unreasonable fear of illness. Okay. Right. So, you know, I've always dealt with that, but I got help with it. And that's how I open up with my patients. I was like, well, not only am I the expert, but I can feel your pain.
Because I'm one of you.
Exactly. So they can relate with these individuals, and that's how we're getting people to open up.
That's why I've always related to you since the first time that I met you. I was able to relate to him so well because of your sense of understanding, the connection that you have. And I think our community on Facebook and Twitter, I think now they've grown to trust us. You know what I'm saying? They can trust that either we're going to lead them to the right therapist or in the right direction, or that we just understand.
That's what people say when they come up to us. They say, you look like us, so, you know, I feel more open to talk to you about it. So they see people that look like them, which is great.
They relate to you automatically. Do African Americans have a tendency to resist medicine, to resist that? Because they figure they can fix it themselves?
Of course. When we look at the Tuskegee experiments and we look at the fact that there's a lack of cultural sensitivity and competence and in medicine, and as well that there are all sorts of disparities as far as healthcare, we don't particularly trust the system. And so we're afraid that they're just going to throw medicine at us instead of doing the hard work of the psychotherapy and then looking at how the medication may help with that if it's needed. So there is that distrust with the medicine, absolutely. But we have to understand that it can be helpful, but it should be the last resort.
The medicine.
The medicine. Absolutely.
Now, Squeaky, in terms of the documentary, where are you guys? I know you've started the project. We've seen some clips from it. It is very powerful listening to people tell their stories. Where are you in the process right now, and in terms of finishing up the project?
We're in the process of funding for the feature, seeking funding, fundraising, and we're still in the process of, you know, we're doing some interviewing as things come up and things arise, and you know, attaching people to the project, people that are known, well known, or, you know, celebrities and doctors like Dr. Gardere to the project.
Because it's important to get those names out there so people immediately have that name recognition, and we talked about relatability. So you get that attention on this. You know, at the end of this, what are you really hoping to do with this documentary?
We want to save lives. We want people to thrive through this. Suicide it should never be on the table. We want to give people tools. Here's a tool bag that you have. Here are options. If this doesn't work, you can try this. If this doesn't work, you can try this. Because it's so important that people feel that they're not alone and that you have options. And that's exactly what this documentary will do for people.
And you don't have to live with depression. You know, it doesn't have to be that thing that you bear because you're a black person. Oh, I'm black, well, depression is part of my life. No, you can get help and you can get better.
You know, at the end of the day, I think just like when, you know, HIV first came out, it was hush-hush, you didn't talk about it. And then they did this campaign, Get Tested. I think that's our goal. Our goal is journey to healing, journey to healing. We're on a journey to healing campaign where people around the world, 5 years from now, it's a no-brainer, where you're going to see people of all races and colors saying, hey, I'm going to see my therapist. I'll be right back. Let's meet up at 5 o'clock. You know, that's our goal.
Right. And I want to give this website out, faceofdarknessdocumentary.com. You can find out more about the project and how you can help to be part of this journey towards healing. Thank you all so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Still ahead on Here and Now, a new exhibit that challenges the many misconceptions about people who live in public housing. Stay with us.